are doing unit 8, right? Unit 8, cognitive behavioristic approach, acceptance commitment therapy, and dialectical behavior therapy. We are done up till acceptance and commitment therapy. The last 20 minutes were not given to us, so that's why I very briefly I'll try to relate to dialectical behavioral therapy. So this is basically with regard to group skills training. Okay. So generally, this is all about assisting people to manage with strong emotions, improving relationships, specifically, coping skills. And the therapist role is to help the client to develop emotional control, interpersonal effective abilities, and individual therapy. It's like providing the client with a very secure, supportive, uh, environment. And mindful practices, most important is, yes, major component is mindful practices. So this is all to actually create a kind of, present moment awareness. Okay. So based on which they will be able to tolerate even if there is a discomfort in their life. So it is nothing but, covering tolerance, learning emotional regulation, interpersonal relations, being in the present moment. That is all, come under mindful practices. Same thing. MBCT is also the same thing. Present moment awareness, being non-judgmental when it comes to observations. So MBCT is another therapy, which is mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. This is another important thing. This MBCT especially, this helps the patients, to practice this mindfulness. By doing this, they create a new relationship with their thoughts and emotions, especially when there are some kind of relapses during some de-addictions and all that. No, so this mindful practice really helps. Okay, so now enter into unit 9. Okay, unit 9. Unit 9 is all about Eastern approaches. Okay, Eastern approaches to counseling. Yeah. So, counseling is always been there, irrespective of, Eastern or Western approach. Everybody has their own, theories, techniques, and approaches, right? So, Eastern approach to counseling, what they offer, some different and unique perspectives, techniques that have, gained increasing recognition, and now it is being adapted to mental health and well-being. So ancient psychology actually, it comes from the source of wisdom, guidance from individuals who are seeking support and growth. So they are more, the approaches are more influenced by yoga, meditation, teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So their techniques and perspectives will definitely enhance any therapeutic intervention, especially when it comes to holistic healing. And even which are recognized or acknowledged by the DSM also can be, especially those who are acknowledged with the importance of culture, right? Where culture is very important, and culture takes a very strong role in diagnosing the mental disorders here. So Eastern approaches will definitely help such kind of, healings here. So, as we all know, India especially has a very rich spiritual heritage, right? So, and lot of philosophical contemplative, traditions are already into. We all are kind of, into it, and it's like, they always uh, illustrate the or emphasize the connectedness or interconnectedness between mind, body, spirit, right? So it's all about insight. Most of the Eastern approach, especially Bhagavad Gita and all that, how a person going in a specific path of self-control under guidance, how they reach their state of self-realization and ultimately that inner peace. So there are many comparisons also for that matter, right? So Eastern approach and Western approach counseling here. They are very much, different from each other. Yes, when it comes to philosophy, historical background, what exactly that they have to offer, especially for those who needs healing, for personal growth, and to the paths to well-being. So here, in fact, when it comes to the comparison between Western and Eastern approaches, the key points first is philosophical foundation. Say, for example, Western is influenced by empiricism, rationalism, existentialism, right? And they are more into, leftist thinking, individual thinking, right? Individualism in pursuit of happiness, all the time, with regard to personal freedom, personal autonomy, because that is the foundation that, Western approaches generally start with, right? It's a kind of field independent nature. Whereas, when it comes to Eastern approaches, they draw heavily from the uh, ancient traditions, like wisdom related ancient traditions, like Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism. So they always emphasize interconnectedness and how important is, where we cultivate our values from inner peace, harmony, right? And next key point is what is the focus of the counseling in both. Now, for example, here in Western, they're more into self-actualization, self-fulfillment or personal fulfillment. Whereas Eastern, they're more in terms of, self-transcendence, acceptance and all that. Insight, transcendence, it's like acceptance of suffering, most, karma siddhantam, gaining deeper understanding about the true nature of the self. Now, next is, how they view of the self. In Western, self is like a very different from the rest, distinct, right? They have their own traits. Each person has their own traits, values, experience, etc. So it is more to self-expression, development of, strong sense of identity, all that. Whereas for Eastern, it is like, uh, it always, emphasizes that interconnectedness with the other beings in the universe. So where ego doesn't stand. So that identification with one's own self, in fact, identification with the supreme being is more welcome. So because self is always impermanent according to Eastern, and self is supposed to be ever evolving, developing. So its only ultimate objective is to self-realization. And just, that connectedness with the universe makes them more uh, meaningful. And what are the techniques that they follow? For example, Western, mostly psychodynamic therapies, cognitive behavioral therapies, various humanistic approaches here, rapport building, thoughts, feelings, emotions, goal setting, right? And end of the day, it's overall well-being. Whereas techniques that are followed in the Eastern is most meditation, yoga, mindfulness practice, breathing, pranayama, and more in terms of, body, mind, and soul connection, integrating three together and then, observations. So it's mostly of the self-observation, non-judgmental, attaining wisdom, developing more and more compassion, like that. And fifth is, mental health and healing. So mental health is something, kind of from Western perspective, it is a kind of, state of psychological well-being, right? Psychological well-being and functioning. So it kind of, enhances how to cope with stress. What is adaptive functioning? What is, first of all, how, healing is done. So it's like resolving the various conflicts and developing healthier patterns of thinking, achieving, what is that sense of fulfilling, achieving that. Whereas in Eastern, mental health and healing means spiritual well-being. Mostly, suffering is also accepted. So, in fact, suffering changes a person, transcends or transforms a person to become, more of him or herself. So healing for Eastern approach is only inner peace, harmony, and being detached, from material things, gaining wisdom and self-realization. And here in Western approach, again, what is the counseling duration? Generally short term, problem solving skills. So it's like, gaining relief from problems or distressing symptoms as immediately as possible, even from the challenges. Whereas the Eastern approach is long term because after all it is to develop, holistically, and it's more in terms of, gaining wisdom, spiritual development, self-reflection. So the journey actually unfolds, gradually one after the other, something like that. Okay. Now, when it comes to, Eastern approaches, what are the various types of approaches? So, first important approach, not first, one after the other, that's all. So, they are, and one more thing is here, all these, Eastern approaches, don't think that they are only confined to a few East countries. No, including, yoga, meditation. Now, it has spread over, in everywhere. It's all universal now, right? Pan universal. So yoga and meditation and what all that is, we chant through, Gita and all that, everything is, the entire world accepts and acknowledges them. And importance of meditation is already, everywhere people know about it. So it's not, these therapeutic techniques of Eastern traditions, they have been recognized and practiced across the globe that we need to accept first. ఓకే మనకి ఎప్పుడు ఫీలింగ్ కదా మనం చాలా తక్కువ అవతలోడు ఎక్కువ టైప్ ఏం లేదు మన మొత్తమే ఫాలో అవుతుంటారు ఓన్లీ థింగ్ ఇస్ వీ థింక్ సమ్వేర్ లో అబౌట్ అవర్ దిస్ థింగ్ సో ఇట్స్ ఆల్ ఫ్రమ్ హియర్ ఓన్లీ థింగ్ ఇస్ యూ నీడ్ టు పిక్ అప్ from where things have already been there. From there you need to become and you need to refine the techniques more. So it's a kind of integrated version you need to take up. Okay. So, Buddhism, here is one Eastern approach where it emphasizes on the importance of counseling to people generally, right? So here, monks generally, does this duty, spiritual instructor, and in this again, Buddhism, counsel. It's like enhancing the power of counseling. It's also in fact, counseling is not only for people who have problems according to them, but it can be applied to even common people so that they can improve their very life, right? So probably their choices could be well informed. In fact, they can be more into problem solving, right? So it's like, the modern psychologists, especially on mindful meditation and all that, you can read the books also. There are many case studies given for who by following Buddhism here, the counseling approach from Buddhist perspective. And Taoism is another, some Western psychologists and psychotherapies actually, they have drawn inspiration from Taoist also. Okay. So in fact, REBT, Ellis REBT, it's like, focusing on the irrational, inflexible, self-defeating patterns because they are the uh, root cause of the emotional troubles. So it's not, how these irrational thoughts are to be turned into or transformed into rational thinking. So here they have taken the gist of, what Taoist philosophy says into REBT. Okay. So all our thinking is actually allowed to flow rather than stagnate. So this is the way of nature. And Taoist secret is to overcome the suffering. That's it. Right? People's attitudes and reactions which cause distress and suffering and all that, they need to, first of all, flow through that, and then, they have to overcome the suffering. So that's what, REBT also, stands for, right? So that's what is Tao's all about. And Confucianism is a kind of, it's for a set of thoughts which compose a kind of, ethos, sentiment. It's been shaping China for more than, we don't know how many million years. So it's a group of proposals for proper socio-ethical way of life, and providing, foundation to the individual's commitment to being sincere, honest, interpersonal harmony maintenance should be there. And of course, the entire, you know, theory, it the impacts, on politics, family, interpersonal relationship, education, deep moral and religious implication, everything together it consists of. So it is, actually originates from Analects. Okay. So, and it is supposed to be called as Confucius. So it comes from, Mencius, it seems. Mencius. Okay. So what are the elements of this actually, which are popular in Taiwan, Hong Kong, China, even now, US also. So it's very popular, especially among Asian Americans, and Chinese also are traditional. It's a very education oriented, time honored, ideal. It's totally into, ideals. So here, Asian Americans, also we all know that, they value family. Whoever is the leader of the family, his decisions are respected, and all the other members are consulted, their approval is taken, and everything, including financial to any other decision, the entire family sits together and comes to a, conclusion like that. So it's more into a group of proposals for, it's all about socio-ethical way of life only, right? So how an individual, actually maintains his commitment towards sincerity, honesty, as well as interpersonal relations. So just imagine the same should be reflected into political aspect, family, interpersonal relations, and more so with education also, and entirely influenced by morals and religious this thing. So you can understand how it could be. Well, there are so many, the indigenous approaches to counseling also, like Hinduism, as I already told, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. In fact, these are highly indigenous, like, in Indian kind of. So they view human beings, through a complete lens. It's a kind of holistic, you can say that. So where this connectedness of body, mind, and spirit would be very strongly, believed. So this belief again is based on the how we see ourselves, means, we see our own selves as divine, which is limitless. In fact, part of, universe interconnected with larger, kind of existence. Okay. So here, in fact, the indigenous approaches, the key point here is it's all about the true healing and growth actually comes from one's own self at a very deeper level of thoughts, emotions, desires, and beliefs. So for this, Only, introspection is the most important. Self-reflection and introspection is very important. Looking into our own self through meditations, which is going to uncover the root to one's own suffering. Why, like a person is suffering, and how to really transform all this and then gain liberation. So there are texts like Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Vedas, Yoga Sutra, Patanjali, even Buddhist scriptures in Pali canon language, and Mahayana Sutras, Jainism. So most, kind of specifically, remarkably, influenced by all our, this thing is Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharvana Veda. So, and Upanishads, the primary sources to provide insights into counseling. Yes, because they provide, quite relevant, culturally relevant. In fact, sometimes, even culture-free psycho therapy, practices. Uh, Here, few approaches have taken up in this particular unit. First one is yoga, because yoga is a kind of, constant source of energy from physical, mental, you know. So, yoga, physical, mental, and spiritual practice, which originated from uh, your ancient India, and of course, it has gained popularity across the globe. And this has impact on mental and physical being also. So there's a combination like, mind, body, and spirit, and believing in or recognizing the interconnectedness with one's existence itself. So it's all about, the physical postures or asanas, breathe control, that is pranayama, and dhyana, that is meditation. So this is the combination which is followed in yoga. So through this, each individual will develop a kind of, system or standard system to cultivate self-awareness, first of all, stress relaxations, even, promotion of relaxation through other techniques also, so that they will be able to facilitate themselves with emotional regulation, control over their emotions, and feeling their own, self as good, that is healthy self-esteem, which is, ultimately going to improve their mental health, and which is definitely, one of the highly valuable complements to the traditional, counseling methods. This is exactly what counseling aims for, isn't it? So, yoga actually, there is this Ashtanga, 8 steps actually. So, these 8 steps cultivate the discipline, right? In fact, it helps manage or control the body, manage illness, creating self-awareness, and helping them to lead a purposeful life also. So, eightfold path of yoga, yama, like basically ethical guidelines, right? Niyama, self-discipline, always following the cleanliness, contentment, self-discipline, self-study. Asana, physical postures are to be practiced, stretching of the body, strengthening and stretching, improving flexibility, balance, promoting well-being, which promotes physical well-being. Then pranayama is about breathing exercises. So like practicing of controlling, regulating the breathing techniques to calm the mind, increasing the energy, enhancing the mental activity or clarity. Then pratyahara, withdrawal from the senses, like withdrawing the senses from external distractions, focusing on the mind, right? It's like looking into one's own self. It's nothing but cultivating introspection, self-reflection, looking into one's own self. Then dharana is concentration, focusing the mind on a one single point. It's nothing but cultivating concentration. Then dhyana is meditation completely. It's a practice of meditation. So deep, sense of self and awareness and stillness. That is finally, leads to mental clarity, well-being of emotions, spiritual growth. And final state is samadhi sthiti. like ultimate goal, like a state of enlightenment. In fact, it's almost like uniting with the God, divine. So an absolute state of ecstasy or bliss. Well, the practitioner, experiences a sense of oneness, probably, right? And he'll be overcoming the limitations that are set by one's ego. It's like beyond it. So these 8 steps, collectively known as 8 limbs of yoga, Ashtanga. So in this, there are few, yoga teachings and texts can be, yeah, why don't you just, read it, because they are after all, counseling techniques too. In this again, meditation is one, integral part actually. You cannot take away meditation from the Eastern approaches to counseling. It's well practiced every time, after yoga and all that asanas. So this word meditation means, actually Latin word meditatum means, to ponder, to be in a state of thoughtful awareness, right? Contemplating or reflecting. So there are many types also: mindful meditation, transcendental meditation. So it has gained recognition even in the Western therapeutic approaches also. And finally, it's been proved that it can reduce anxiety, it can reduce, depression, it can improve one's psychological well-being, and it can improve one's, mindfulness of the present moment. And it helps in, meditation helps in looking into oneself, means, self-reflection. So I have to control my anger. So it's all like, emotional restructuring, cognitive, emotive restructuring, emotional restructuring. So that will definitely provide with an inner calm, important. And that will lead to greater relaxation, because one is able to understand their thoughts and emotions and behaviors, where they are stuck, where they are fixed, and where, the restructure needs to be started. So it's an entire transformation. So that leads to personal growth and healing naturally. Now, Bhagavad Gita is another, important ancient Indian text here, a high and rich source of wisdom and guidance. And this is really, helps a lot in counseling, because it starts from, or it's part of Hindu epic Mahabharata, where Arjun, during the battle of Kurukshetra, he was in a total conflict whether he should be fighting his own cousins, or, all his relatives and kingdom, kinship, and all that, just for kingdom. So he saw the need to prevent, destruction, maybe further destruction. He was struggling to make choices opposite his brothers. So it was Krishna, Lord Krishna, who assisted Arjuna, that he should overcome his moral conflict and help him a state of equilibrium, right? Homeostasis. So Arjuna faced a struggle during that time, yes, and he could overcome the internal conflicts. So here it offers, and then he did his kartavya. So Gita offers, these type of insights into the nature, human nature. There are so many dilemmas, of course, ethical dilemmas, and paths are so confusing towards internal realization or self-realization. So better that, these 18 chapters, almost 701 verses, right? They all describe this consciousness only. What is the process of self-consciousness? Uh, how it is classified into karma yoga, what is bhakti yoga, what is jnana yoga, and what is self-acceptance, control of sense, what is the nature, the permanent soul, nature of stress, right? Dangers of attaching too much with the materialistic things, why it is so important to detach oneself with those. What is the nature of birth and death? So it's like providing a practical, skill guidance, or guidance on leading. If you want to lead a fulfilled life, you better go through, Bhagavad Gita. So, and Gita, what it says is there are 3 important approaches: Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti karma or bhakti margam, jnana, karma and bhakti. These are the approaches to understand and lead a fruitful life. So jnana is nothing but cognitive appraisals of one's own problem solving skill, and karma is like one's action. That's it, right? So how you have sowed your seed, you will reap, right? That's like karma. And it's like bad action will have negative consequence only. If it is good, good consequence. Bhakti is something like you having belief or faith in the God. So the goal is to identify one's soul with the part of that particular supreme energy or being. Okay. And the contemporary psychotherapy approaches, especially with Bhagavad Gita here, uh, the Bhagavad Gita, it's some extent you can say that similar, parallel to some extent can be drawn between Bhagavad Gita and contemporary therapies like psychodynamic, cognitive behavioral, humanistic. So it's same thing, Freud, with the help of healthy defense mechanisms. The defense mechanisms are used by everyone, but take the help of healthy defense mechanisms, any individual can resolve the conflict easily, right? That's what he says. So Lord Krishna, for example, he provides resolution of conflicts uh, that arise between sattva, rajas, and tamas. Okay, similar to the concept of consciousness, subconsciousness, unconsciousness. And ego, superego, it's almost like, similar to the system of gunas. Okay. So there is, kind of connection between psychodynamic psychotherapy and Bhagavad Gita. There are similarities, like, when it comes to determining the human conduct and behavior, etc. Then cognitive behavioral therapy, it's like similarities between Bhagavad Gita and CBT. So both actually emphasize the importance of looking into one's own self only, self-reflection and self-awareness only. So here, Gita, kind of Krishna, Lord Krishna, he encourages Arjuna to introspect into one's own self, right? So it's the same. That's what CBT says. So look into your own self so that you can understand, how your emotions and behaviors, by what they are actually influenced, etc. So here the CBT gives importance to identifying and challenging the negative thoughts, irrational beliefs, which are causing distress, which are leading to maladaptive behavior. So CBT is actually, even give sharing so many techniques also to manage emotions, etc. So Arjuna, just as he is encouraged to focus on his duty because he is a warrior there. So individuals are encouraged to set specific and achievable, goals which they can achieve. Same, CBT says that only, right? Do your duty. You set your goals and go accordingly. And Gita also says, highly detached, kind of action while doing your duties. CBT also says that, better that you develop, an element called detachment to recognize and accepting their thought with detachment, emotions, and all that. To be non-judgmental about, many of these things. And humanistic of, and another thing is, having a very close connection with the culture and backgrounds. Both of them actually does so. And humanistic is again, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, how he shows unconditional positive regard, towards Arjuna. Humanistic also, according to Abraham Maslow and Rogers and all that, self-actualization is the most important thing, right, for any person to reach that ultimate state. So humanistic approaches, in fact, relates more with Bhagavad Gita. It's more on self-awareness, self-understanding, etc., etc. So by following the teachings of Bhagavad Gita into counseling practice, therapists can actually go deep, well into wisdom, and they can again seek, that personal growth, and relate to what, seeking guidance and support, they can resonate actually the wisdom and insight. Okay. So this is about, the Eastern approach here. And yeah, I could complete, this unit. So better we stop here. I don't know about 40 minutes class. Yeah, any doubts here?
No, ma'am. It's very interesting actually.
Yeah, true, true.
It's very, very, very interesting. We know Indian thing, but comparing with Western things, no, it's
Mm,
very Western psychology. And
true,
now I able to understand everything. We are a little bit very close with Indian thing, but the
mm,
comparison is today is very, very interesting, ma'am.
true, true.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, because all these practices we are following anyway, in counseling for such a long time. Only thing is, we need to acknowledge just all these things, and we can always, refine. After all, any concept, whichever side of the universities, all it is to ultimately help the human beings who are seeking help, right? It is only for healing and ultimate, well-being. So you can always, integrate them, and then you can always refine your skills. Those who are already into, like Eastern practices, yes, you can still refine them, and you can still learn the Western approaches too, and then you can work, definitely good things. You can do good things. But as I always state, practice, learn a lot. It's not a time for you to set up your centers or anything like that. You need to still, think of further studies, PhDs, and work, read as much as possible. Then, things are going to be really, good for you. Okay?
Sure. Sure, ma'am.
Yeah. So, any doubts here?
Madam, in yesterday's class, I want to ask at the end, but it was not possible. I could not understand completely discomfort, anxiety, and ego anxiety.
Mm.
I
Discomfort.
anxiety and ego anxiety. I referred dictionary also, psychology
No,
dictionary.
it is not there in
There,
any. It's about rational emotive, right? Yes.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely I will discuss about these two concepts tomorrow. But it is an interesting, yeah, what you stated is very interesting only.
Acha.
Um, yeah, I understand what you said, but I think it's already 41 now.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Is it have we recovered from this, or is it going to be stopped? I didn't understand actually. Hmm? Is it okay now today? After 40 minutes also it is still working means how are we
We do not,
supposed to?
we do not know, madam.
Yeah.
Yesterday again we have logged in with the same ID, ma'am, for another two classes. We continued for 1 hour class, ma'am. Second time logged in.
Okay, okay. Again you could log in, and again you could
Yes, ma'am.
okay. Then it went for 1 hour, huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyway, today let me just Zoom user. Let us see. Tomorrow I'll take this 1 hour class. For today, I think I should stop it at here. Not for this thing, but for some other reason. Okay. So tomorrow I'll take another class. See you tomorrow for today.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, ma. Thank you. And
Okay,
yes,
ma'am.
I remember
Thank you.
your ego and discomfort. Definitely I'll discuss. Okay, ma. Thank you. Thank you. See you
Thank you.
tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah.
ma'am. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank
See
you,
you,
ma'am.
ma'am. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.